The twin suns hung low over the jagged horizon of Praxis 9, casting long shadows across the sand-worn surface of the Galactic Training Academy's outer campus. Dust Devil spun lazily between towering domes and sleek landing pads, a subtle but constant reminder that this planet tolerated life. It did not welcome it. Cadet Alira Voss stepped off the shuttle with her helmet under one arm, the synthetic mesh of her green exosuit glinting under the bright light. She didn't flinch at the arid air or the suspicious stares from the assembled personnel. Her eyes, dark and unreadable, flicked across the waiting crowd of cadets, instructors, and drones scanning arrivals. None of them mattered, not really. She was here to finish what no one thought she could, what no one wanted her to. The Academy's central tower loomed ahead, its spires wrapped in antenna rays and shield emitters. From its highest balcony, a silver-skinned administrator watched through augmented optics, murmuring to her aide, "That's the Deathworlder," she said flatly. "I thought she'd be taller." "She's still only 17, the aide replied, fidgeting with his data pad. "Survived alone for 2 weeks on Myrmex Prime at 13. Built a distress beacon from scrap, and skinned 2 cave beasts to survive. Her psych eval was illuminating. She's not here to impress us. She's here to be evaluated." Alira knew they were watching her. She didn't care. Let them stare. She felt the weight of the planet shift under her boots, the subtle difference in gravitational pull that only someone raised on a death world would notice. Lighter, easier. It would be her advantage, and their mistake to ignore. "Cadet Voss, please proceed to orientation." A voice chimed from her embedded comm. She didn't respond, only adjusted the strap on her gear and moved forward. Inside, the welcome hall buzzed with chatter, but the moment she entered, a hush fell. Conversations tapered off into whispers. Her presence was unmistakable, not because of her reputation, but because of how she moved, efficient, deliberate, as though every step had already been measured and accounted for. In a room full of the galaxy's most elite cadets, she walked like she belonged somewhere even harder to reach. A boy with titanium implants along his jawline leaned toward a fellow trainee. "She's the one from Alec Dunn. 3, yeah? That place eats Marines." "Deathworlder," someone muttered, like it was a slur or a myth. Alira took her seat without glancing around. The chair creaked under her enhanced frame, but she remained still calm, letting their words roll off her like sand against metal. The instructor entered moments later, a tall reptilian being in sleek black armor, face obscured by a visor. "Welcome to the Galactic Cadet Initiative," he said without ceremony. "This week, you'll be tested beyond exhaustion. You'll face combat, survival, strategy, and diplomacy modules. Fail one and you're gone. Pass all 4, and you may earn the badge of interstellar readiness. But don't think passing means glory." His gaze swept the room before settling, inevitably on Alira. "For some of you, this is a game. For others, it's a gamble." The first test came within the hour. A zero-gravity arena lit with harsh white lights. 20 cadets. No rules beyond survival. Disable or eject your opponents. Stay functional. Alira entered without fanfare, her green armor gleaming like fresh paint. She caught the eyes of a few others. One a cyborg from Core Alpha, another a psionic adept from Helix Theta. They exchanged no words, only calculations. The countdown sounded. The arena roared to life. Alira launched herself upward, using the recoil from her magnetic boots to propel into the high beams. Others clashed below. Brute force, flashy tricks, predictable patterns. She observed. 3 minutes in, she hadn't thrown a single punch. At minute 4, she descended like a controlled meteor, disabling 2 cadets with time momentum and precision strikes to their stabilizers. By minute 7, she was alone, panting but uninjured. The silence in the observation deck was louder than any applause. She didn't just win, one instructor said, reviewing the data. She adapted to a changing field and mapped trajectories faster than the AI tracking software. She read the arena like it was a hunting ground. Another replied, "That's not cadet-level training. That's instinct." Later that night, Alira sat alone in the mess hall, ignoring the way conversation ceased when she walked by. She didn't crave company. She didn't even want to be here, not in the way the others did. She had already survived worse than this. No, she was here to prove that her kind weren't monsters, weren't weapons. They were survivors. And sometimes survival looked like victory. A tray clattered down across from her. A lanky cadet with mismatched eyes and a smug grin leaned forward. "You think you're better than us?" he asked, tone casual, but the challenge unmistakable. Alira didn't look up. "I don't think about you at all." A few stifled laughs from nearby tables. The cadet's grin faltered. "You Deathworlders, you're all the same. Born to break things. No discipline. No control." She met his gaze at last, voice calm. "You mistake silence for arrogance. I could have snapped your trachea twice during that match. I didn't." He stood slowly, pride dented, but smart enough not to push further. "Not yet." When he walked away, Alira returned to her meal, her focus already on the next phase. The academy didn't scare her. The instructors didn't impress her. But the unspoken expectations, the tests no one spoke of, the surveillance, the psychological pressure, those were what interested her. They wanted to see what she'd do under stress, how far she could be pushed, how controllable she was. But they didn't understand yet. Deathworlders didn't break. They adapted, and in 7 days, they have to decide if they could live with what they'd created, or what they'd unleashed. The morning sun on Praxis, 9 sliced through the atmosphere like a blade, casting a glare so bright it turned shadows to ghosts. Cadet Alira Voss stood at the edge of the combat dome, helmet locked in place, pulse steady, her breath fogged inside of her visor, for only a moment before the auto vent cleared it away. Across from her, 9 other cadets readied themselves, their suits gleaming in various colors, insignias pulsing with minor pride. They weren't here to train. They were here to prove something. To outlast, outperform, to eliminate. The simulation loaded in real time. A rocky terrain rendered in such detail, even wind and heat currents were accurately simulated. The rules were simple. Team-based combat with randomized squad formations. Alira was paired with 2 cadets she hadn't spoken to. One from the ice moon of Trolax, the other a silent brute from a gravity-heavy mining colony. They barely acknowledged her. The siren blared. Combat began. Her team scattered as expected. Alira didn't. She knelt behind a ridgeline, scanning the digital terrain, noting potential bottlenecks and flanking zones. Within 2 minutes, one of her teammates was down, caught in a crossfire from a clever pincer movement. The brute charged recklessly, managing to disable one opponent before being overwhelmed. Alira remained motionless. A trio of enemy cadets swept through the canyon near her position. She waited, watching their spacing, the rhythm of their scanning, how they anticipated ambushes. They weren't amateurs. That made them predictable. When she moved, it was with silent violence. A burst from her propulsion pack lifted her onto a ledge above them. She dropped behind the last cadet in the line, disabling her with a single strike to the neural junction between shoulder and neck. The other 2 whirled, but Alira was already in motion, rolling through dust, striking low and hard. It was fast, brutal, controlled. She stood alone in the simulated canyon. 8 minutes. No wasted movements. Minimal energy spent. Outside the dome, instructors exchanged glances, silent but electric with thought. One of them spoke at last. "She reads battle like a language." "She is a language," another replied. "One we haven't fully learned to translate." The rest of the day blurred into debriefs and simulated injury assessments. The cadets whispered now, but not just out of fear. Some whispered with curiosity. Others, envy. 1 or 2 was something darker. Cadet Bralek, the same one who had confronted her in the mess hall, watched from across the barracks with a look that didn't waver. She knew his type, accustomed to winning, unaccustomed to being ignored. The next morning brought the second module, survival. They were dropped one by one into different sectors of Praxis 9 simulated outlands, an inhospitable blend of salt flat, heat wave, and high-speed wind corridors. The objective was simple. Survive 72 hours with minimal gear. Return to the extraction point alive. But for Alira, simplicity had never meant safety. The heat was real. The isolation more so. Her suit regulated internal temperatures, but gave no emotional comfort. She moved quickly but deliberately, locating elevated ground, noting animal tracks, and setting a passive perimeter alarm with jury-rig components from her emergency kit. On her second night, she was woken by the soft crunch of movement, someone or something testing her line. Her suit's thermal imaging picked up a humanoid silhouette 30 meters out, not local fauna. "Who's there?" she transmitted on open comm. No reply. She didn't ask again. She circled wide and silent, flanking the figure until she saw them clearly. Cadet Brolick, crouched near her original campfire ring, holding a combat knife loosely in his hand. Not regulation, not training approved. So that's how it was going to be. She stepped into view and said nothing. The message in her stance was enough. He straightened, false innocence hanging off him like a wet flag. "Didn't know it was you," he said smoothly. "Liar," she replied. The wind kicked up dust between them. For a long moment, neither moved. "I just wanted to see how the Deathworlder handles pressure. You'll find I don't break the way you do." He took a step forward. She didn't step back. Eventually, he turned and left, muttering something she didn't catch. She stayed awake the rest of the night, more alert than ever, not because she was afraid, because now it was clear this wasn't just a course. It was a battlefield layered under bureaucratic approval. Some of them weren't trying to win. They were trying to eliminate competition. By the end of the survival module, Alira returned first to the extraction zone. Her suit scratched, her water supply nearly empty, but her eyes clear and undimmed. A drone scanned her vitals and signaled completion. The instructor at the pickup point didn't even try to hide his surprise. "You beat the time record by 6 hours," he said. She nodded once. "I prefer not to linger in simulations. Some cadets haven't even been located yet." "They will be," she said, "or they won't." The ride back was quiet. The transport hovered over deep-cut canyons and wind-swept ridges, the academy lights barely visible in the distance. Alira sat alone, helmet beside her, gaze focused not on the window, but on her own gloved hands. She was tired, not physically, but in the way one tires of masks, of being seen as nothing but a test subject or a cautionary tale. She wanted to prove she was more. That night, she reviewed the next module on her data slate: Strategic Command, Multivariable AI War Games, Real-Time Decisions, Team Coordination, Resource Scarcity, Probability Management, the kind of simulation meant to expose a cadet's limits, not just intelligence, but judgment. She had no doubt Brolick and others would try again. Sabotage could take many forms in such a module: misinformation, betrayal, manipulated alliances. She leaned back on her bunk, letting the lights dim to minimum. Somewhere, a storm crawled across the outer ridge. Thunder cracked like breaking bones. Tomorrow, they'd try to outthink her. But they didn't know she'd grown up playing chess with creatures that stalked through fog, whose moves you never saw until it was too late. And she always remembered the board. The war room was colder than the desert outside, humming with subdued tension. Fluorescent panels glowed above angular tables, while holograms of planetary terrain shimmered in midair. Tactical data floated beside shifting troop indicators, colored blips marking teams, objectives, and simulated threats. The Strategic Command module was underway, and for the first time since arrival, Cadet Alira Voss wasn't alone in scrutiny. Each cadet was given a team. Each team was given limited resources and control of one quadrant of the holographic war map. The goal: achieve dominance through coordination, deception, and adaptability. But this wasn't some turn-based game. Every second mattered. Every movement was tracked. And the AI orchestrating the battlefield adapted, learned, and punished. Alira had been assigned command. Her team, 5 others, stood around her, some skeptical, some visibly irritated. Brolick was among them, arms crossed and silent. The instructors had done this on purpose. She saw the setup instantly. Give her command. Surround her with hostility. Then see if she cracks. She didn't acknowledge the tension. Instead, she stepped forward, hand behind her back, eyes locked on the central projection. "Base Alpha is underdefended," she said, Without preamble. We'll fortify in the first 10 minutes, reroute our recon drones to probe southwest, and launch a decoy assault on Grid 17C to mask the movement of our actual strike unit. One cadet scoffed. That's risky. You're guessing they'll commit to defending that sector. I'm calculating. They've already shown a pattern of overcommitting to perceived threats. Another tried to interrupt, and if they adapt, they won't. Not fast enough. Not in this simulation. Her tone left no room for debate. She looked at Bralek last. You'll lead the decoy team. Use a heavy profile. Make it messy. To her surprise, he nodded. No protest. Not yet. The simulation began. The war map came alive, with cadets scrambling at consoles, data streams pulsing with unit status reports and environmental conditions. Alira moved between stations like conductor, issuing orders with clip precision, her mind fractured into layers of thought, tracking resource levels, enemy maneuvers, internal dynamics of her team. The enemy, another group of cadets led by a seasoned tactician from the Phalanx program, pressed hard on the North Ridge, forcing Bralek's decoy unit into prolonged skirmishes. Alira let them bleed attention there, even fed them false data through a stealth drone rerouted to intercept communications. Meanwhile, her real strike force slipped through a ravine and breached enemy supply lines. The tide turned within 20 minutes. Her team watched, stunned, as the entire enemy rear collapsed under logistical pressure. With no ammo, no med units, and a flanking force in their blind spot, they withdrew. The AI declared a conditional victory. Applause echoed from the instructor's gallery above. But Alira wasn't smiling. She looked at Bralek, whose gaze had shifted from disdain to something colder. Calculation. She hadn't earned his respect. She'd earned his attention. Hours later, back in the barracks, she reviewed the playback alone. Every frame, every command, reanalyzed. Not for validation. 4 gaps. Weaknesses. Overconfidence. She had succeeded, but the victory wasn't flawless. Her risk tolerance had spiked at minute 13. A habit, a relic from real combat, where hesitation was death. She would correct it. A knock came at the door. Bralek entered without waiting. He was alone, unarmed, posture relaxed but alert. You want something, she said flatly. I want to know what you're hiding. She tilted her head. I'm not hiding. You just don't know how to see me. I've read the reports. Your world Drexia. No cadet from there has ever survived the first year, much less excelled. I'm not like the others. Yeah, that part's obvious. He paused, glancing at the data slate in her hand. You don't sleep much. I've seen what happens when you let your guard down. His tone softened slightly. I didn't come to threaten you. But you don't trust me. He didn't answer, which was answer enough. She studied him for a beat. Then, there's something coming, Bralek. This course, this whole structure, is built to test our limits. But I don't think it ends there. You think there's more? I know there is. The instructors are watching too closely. Their simulations are getting too real. There's a reason I was brought in late. A reason they've pushed me harder than the rest. Bralek leaned against the bulkhead, processing. You think we're not the ones being tested. I think we're the control group for something bigger. They said nothing for a while. The silence grew heavy between them. No longer hostile, but sharpened by the weight of understanding. Eventually, Bralek nodded once. Tomorrow's the final module, isn't it? Diplomacy, team coordination, crisis management. He smirked. That one's going to suck. For you, maybe. He left with no further words. Alira turned back to her slate. She brought up a new screen, one that wasn't part of the standard cadet interface. A backdoor she'd found in her first night, one that let her monitor instructor activity logs. She scanned recent entries. One phrase stood out, tagged with red-level encryption. Psychological stressor insertion pending. Tomorrow wouldn't be a test of words. It would be something else. And she needed to be ready. She closed the file and shut off the light. Her room darkened, save for the faint glow of the stars outside. Silent, ancient, and watching. The final simulation began without warning. No instructors. No preamble. No mission brief. Alira Voss woke to a red alert flashing across her visor display. Her room suddenly sealed from the outside. Her AI assistant looped the same message every 7 seconds. Crisis protocol engaged. Proceed to command level. Her boots hit the floor instantly. She was already dressed, her habit of sleeping in base layers proving valuable. Outside, the corridor pulsed with emergency lighting. Other cadets emerged, bleary-eyed and disoriented. The air was sharp with the ozone tang, a recycled emergency flow. No one spoke. No one needed to. The test had changed. Command level was chaos. Holographic projections flickered erratically, the war table displaying a vast planetary evacuation scenario. Civilian clusters, disrupted comms, rogue elements, simulated refugees, collapsing orbital structures. Everything layered in painful realism. A stern-faced instructor appeared as a hologram, his voice cutting through the confusion. This is your final module. You are now in command. Your actions, your decisions, and your moral judgment will determine the outcome. You'll be monitored but not guided. Then he vanished. Cadets instinctively began arguing, clustering around consoles, voices rising with panic. Everyone wanted to be in control. Everyone wanted answers. Alira stood back, eyes narrowing. This wasn't just a crisis simulation. It was a leadership crucible. 100 decisions, and only a few correct ones. She spotted Bralek among the others. He wasn't shouting. He was watching her. Their eyes met. Agreement passed without words. She stepped forward and raised her voice. Silence. It wasn't a request. It was a command shaped by instinct, sharpened by survival. The room quieted. We're burning time. Split tasks. Bralek, triage evac routes. Use real-time telemetry to avoid orbital debris. He moved without protest. Rin, stabilize comm relays to refugee clusters on the eastern shelf. Prioritize the ones within collapse zones. Rin nodded and sprinted to console. Elik, manage drone recon over urban sectors. Identify any non-cooperative zones, any groups resisting evacuation. Within minutes, the chaos turned into momentum. The cadets shifted from scattered confusion to a coordinated, functioning unit. They stopped questioning why Lyra was in charge. The simulation turned brutal quickly. Orbital debris tore through a quadrant of the upper atmosphere, cutting off a vital evac path. A rogue militia commandeered a supply convoy, threatening to shoot down civilian transports unless demands were met. A volcano under the southern plate destabilized, threatening a massive ecological disaster. Every choice cost lives. Alira made them anyway. She authorized a decoy transport filled with drone signatures to lure the rogue militia away, buying time for real evacuees to escape. She rerouted energy from perimeter shields to maintain life support in a critical hospital. She deployed a communication override to force the militia leader into direct interface, and talked him down with knowledge from his public psychological profile. The instructors were watching. She knew, but it didn't matter anymore. This wasn't about impressing them. It was about proving to herself that she could make the choices others wouldn't. That survival didn't always have to mean sacrifice. The timer counted down. 15 minutes left. Then came the final blow. The AI injected a surprise scenario. A malfunction in the station's reactor core. Total meltdown in 7 minutes. No external control. Manual override required. From the reactor chamber itself, which was already flooding with radiation. A cadet had to go in. Alone. The room froze. Everyone looked at each other. Alira stepped forward before the silence became unbearable. I'll go. Bralek moved to intercept. No, you've been leading this. Let someone else. I've already calculated the risk. It has to be me. No one else has the neural link clearance. You can't win if you're dead. I'm not here to win. Their standoff lasted a breath. Then he stepped aside. The reactor chamber hissed when she entered, the door sealing behind her. It was dark, glowing with a poisonous green pulse of decaying energy cells. Her HUD flared red from the radiation warnings, but she kept moving. Her body shook. Her skin burned beneath her suit. She reached the override panel, with 47 seconds left. Her hands moved with precision, keying in the manual sequence, rerouting power, initiating the failsafe. Lights flickered, warning tones blared, but she didn't stop. The timer froze at 6 seconds. Then it blinked out. She collapsed. When she woke, she was in the medical bay, a real one. Her body ached in a way no simulation could induce. Her skin was flush with the aftermath of controlled radiation exposure, a risk the instructors hadn't warned about. She sat up. Across from her, Brolic was seated, arms resting on his knees. "You're awake." "You look disappointed." He half smiled. Hard to be after that performance. Alira exhaled slowly. The silence between them was heavier now, earned, not imposed. "Was it real?" she asked. "Parts of it. They let it go too far." He nodded. "You scared them." "Good." The door opened. The head instructor entered. No clipboard, no projection, just tired eyes and a quiet nod. "Cadet Voss," he said, "you completed the course. Record time. First time in Academy history." She didn't answer. "You've also been offered assignment to the First Response Corps, Deep Space Crisis Units. You don't have to accept." She looked at Brolic, then back to the instructor. "I do." Outside, the praxis, 9 sun was rising again. But this time, it didn't feel like the start of a simulation. It felt like the beginning of something real.